Okay, we'll continue with Federalist number 6. This is part 8. I had to stop in the middle of the paragraph, so I'll just restart the paragraph from the beginning and then we'll take it from there. Is it not, we may ask these projectors in politics, the true interest of all nations to cultivate the same benevolent and philosophic spirit? If this be their true interest, they have in fact pursued it. Has it not, on the contrary, invariably been found that momentary passions and immediate interests have a more active and imperious control over human conduct than general or remote considerations of policy, utility, or justice? Have republics in practice been less addicted to war than monarchies? Are not the former administered by men as well as the latter? Are there not aversions, predilections, rivalships, and desires of unjust acquisitions that affect nations as well as kings? Are not popular assemblies frequently subject to the impulse of rage, resentment, jealousy, avarice, and of other irregular and violent propensities? Is it not well known that their determinations are often governed by a few individuals in whom they place confidence and are, of course, liable to be tinctured by the passions and views of those individuals? Has commerce hitherto done anything more than change the objects of war? Is not the love of wealth as domineering and enterprising a passion as that of power and glory? Have there not been as many wars founded upon commercial motives, since that has become the prevailing system of nations, as were before occasioned by the cupidity of territory or dominion? Has not the spirit of commerce in many instances administered new incentives to the appetite both for the one and for the other? Let experience, the least fallible guide of human opinions, be appealed to for an answer to these inquiries. Look at the beautiful line, the very last line of the paragraph. Let experience, the least fallible guide of human opinions, be appealed to for an answer to these inquiries. We should look at the experience of nations of the world. We take a good account of what's happened in the world, what people have done, what people have been through, you will find out that even commercial nations go to war because of their interests or because they think their interests are being violated. Because remember, we started this essay by talking about the fact that disunion of these 13 states will lead to war, and Hamilton is criticizing those who say these 13 states are going to be 13 republics. Republics don't go to war. Republics that are commercial don't go to war. Republics that trade with one another don't go to war. And Hamilton says, you're a fool if you think this. Because human nature, over thousands of years of human experience, human societies, have shown that it is not just the piece of land that people go to war over. It's not just because they want to take somebody else's land that they go to war for, but it's also love of fame, love of money, all those passions, all that craziness that takes over their mind. So yes, for thousands of years, one tribe went to war to take the land and resources of another tribe. The multiple tribes united together, but they united together to go take the land and resources of other united tribes. Then countries got going, and they did the same thing to any country that was weaker. They invaded, they plundered, they took resources. But the other side of the coin is true too. He says, have we not seen over this past 2-3 centuries how commerce caused war? How when one nation thinks, oh, I am going to lose my advantage dealing with this small country over on this side of the continent because the other nations have now started trading with them. That means it's almost like what they call a zero-sum game. They look at it like if somebody else benefits from something, that means I am going to benefit less. And I might not even get any because there's only so much to go around. So they'll find a way to persuade their population that somebody else is hurting our interest, somebody else is stealing from us. We need to go to war with them and stop them. And a lot of times this is done not just for a piece of land, sometimes not even for money, but just for fame and glory. They want to say that we are conquerors. They want to say that we are strong people and fool their people into going to war. And sometimes in the short term, they might benefit from it, but in the long term, somebody else will come and do the same to them. Or by starting a war, they start building larger and larger armies. And before you know it, once the war is over, what are they going to do with that army? They will use that army to beat their own people down. They become tyrants and they tell people to shut up and listen. We will make all the rules. You will need to follow, and if you do not, I've got this big army that will come after you. So intuitively, he's saying, if we get united, we will have no need for a big army, what they call the standing army, which is the army that's always ready to serve, army that's always in uniform. So Hamilton here says, if we unite, we probably will not need a large standing army. Because if we have a large standing army, that translates into not a republic, but some sort of dictatorship, some sort of tyranny. And all the founders back then knew this, because they knew how Britain was, they knew how France was, they knew how Spain was. One of the good things that they always said about England, Britain, is that because England is a naval power, it has mastery of the seas, it has a very, very small standing army. That's why, compared to the countries of the continent of Europe, they said England was the freest because there was no army, not a big army anyways, in England. So people had tendency to be freer. They had a longer tradition of freedom that went back all the way to Magna Carta, which we'll talk about it. So he's telling his readers and the people that are going to go to the ratifying conventions of different states to ratify this Constitution, saying, look, if we stay united, the chances are we won't have to go to war, and then use all our resources and all our energy to prosper and spend less money on warfare, which in essence is what we're hoping to do with this project. We're hoping to remind people that if we unite eventually, hopefully by the end of 21st century, so much of our resources and money will not be wasted on war-making industries, warfare, and we can use all that money and resources to make sure that all human beings around the world flourish and live up to their full potential. We'll make sure that this planet stays healthy and beautiful for ourselves and for the next generations.